welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am your host, Daniel Faust. Why is wearing this mask so polarizing? Well, let me take it off so we can share the theory with you. Woo. Wearing this mask is polarizing. My theory is it takes away from being authentic. You don't get to go over and be yourself. You're not seen. 60% of your face is not being seen. People don't know your emotions, those types of things. And there's many other reasons, but that's not the reason for the topic tonight. I was just trying to pull this as an analogy, but the same thing happens in marriages when you put on a mask. In marriage, you're not being authentic. Would you agree? I know I do. And this is what we're going to be talking about for this month. So this month, we are focusing on authenticity because we need to take off the mask in our marriage. And the first way we do that is being authentic. In this week, we want to laser focus authenticity in the bedroom. But before being authentic, we need to explore what limitations or mask, doesn't matter what color it is, style, wear, that we wear that prevents this from happening, because we want to have authentic marriages. But if we don't understand that mask and what it is, then we're just going to go over and try to rip off something and not know how to go deal with it. So I came up with a list of 10 that I see. It's not exhaustive, but to go over and hit the point. So one of the masks that we first wear when we get married, especially in the bedroom, is pain. Pain could have came from your spouse. Pain could have came from somebody else. Pain could have came from someone in the past. It could have came from you last night. No matter where it is, pain is one of the masks that can go over and prevent authenticity in a bedroom. Failure is another one. We could have had failure in past relationships. We could have had failure in just conversations that we had. We could have had failure in our life that prevents us from sexual intimacy, from conversational, emotional intimacy. It could be thoughts that you have in your mind of being a failure, or maybe you are coming in and you're a blended marriage now, and you have past failures from your past marriage that you're bringing into the bedroom in this part. So failure could be another mask. One of the ones that are most common that I go over and see is actually lies. And it's not like lying, saying like, oh, you're thin and you're actually fat, or, hey, I didn't go over and take the cookies out of the jar, or hey, I did do the laundry. I'm talking about lies that we go over and believe about ourselves, about what intimacy is, how sex is supposed to be in a marriage, how communication is supposed to go, things of that nature. A lie is another type of mask that we go over and wear. Another one, cynicism, which is basically being sarcastic, pessimistic, going over and thinking that we shouldn't have great intimacy, we shouldn't be authentic, we should go over and not be, just overall just have this like everything is like that type of thing. Cynicism. That one's a little hard to describe, so we'll go with that. Hurts are huge. If you've been hurt, past sexual experiences, maybe hurts in the relationship of words that were said, maybe hurts that are from your past, could have been hurts from a past father or mother that carry into the relationship. Those types of things, those hurts can go over and prevent us from being authentic. Another one could be beliefs. What do we believe? What intimacy should look like? What communication should we look like? What sex should we look like? What roles that we're supposed to have in our marriage? That could be a limiting mask that we could be putting on. Another huge one is past relationships. The more past relationships we have, the more ways we might not want to be authentic, because those past relationships could go over and trigger some things in conversations, names, places, dates, what you have or haven't done with those people. A lot of times, the more intimate of the past relationship, the heavier the mask is or limitation. What about judgment? That's a huge one. Why would I want to be authentic in the bedroom if I'm going over and getting judged in there? What if I have a fear of being judged? What if I'm getting scored from a 0 to 10 on sexual intimacy and emotional connectedness? What if there's a back fear of those types of things? That could be a mask that you go over and wear. Another one is just plain out fear. Being authentic is being vulnerable. Being authentic is going over and being who you are and sharing all of you. And you might not know how your spouse is going to respond to you in that particular regard. So you have a fear, so you put on the mask and then don't go over and communicate who you really are. And another one is pleasing. You might go over and have this naturally pleasing mentality that you want your fear, which it could link together, that you want to please the person and always be that subservient person so they're satisfied intimacy wise, but then you're not because you're constantly going over and pleasing them. No matter which one or several, because we could be wearing one or a lot, is when we don't explore the why, we stay the same. And I got a little story for you. So if you love stories, come real close and break out your marshmallows. Well, it ain't that type of story, but whoop, wrong one. So I'm going to tell you a story about a 12-year-old boy and a 30-plus old married man, which was me. So let's go to that story. So I went over and had my parents get a divorce, went through sexual molestation. I was the victim. And a parent's divorce, all within a basically from 8 to 14. I didn't realize that at the time that I stopped maturing around 12 years old. Not in the sense of physically, but in the sense of mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. I was that 12-year-old boy. And you do the bare minimal things to go over and survive. And when you don't have a bedroom relationship, it's not as noticeable about these different limitations in these masks that we go over and wear. So I was doing just fine when I went to the military, and I was doing just fine as a staff sergeant in the Air Force. But when I got married at 25, I didn't realize at the time that I was a 12-year-old boy wearing fear, wearing the pleasing mask, going over and having mixed beliefs, very cynicism, very pessimistic, had lots of pain, emotional and physical pain, with the things that I currently have. And until I went over and ripped up those masks, I basically was a 30-plus old man, but I was a 12-year-old boy on the inside. So mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, my mess was basically a 12-year-old, but yet I was over 30 and having kids and raising kids. So I had to go over and get challenged with that. I got spiritually kicked in the nuts from my wife around June of 2013 because I brought 7 years of basically mask wearing. And actually, I've been wearing the mask until I was around 12. So I was wearing it for about 18 years. I had so many layers of these types of masks, it didn't go over and help. I could go jump into cynicism, and I could go jump into hurts, and I could go jump into past relationships, and I could jump into whatever mask goes over to fit. That list is not exhaustive, but I kept going on and putting on masks. So if one got caught, I had another one on. It'd be like, "Ooh, you didn't catch me," you know. So for me, until I went over and dealt with those things, and still regularly dealing with those things, I've taken off a good amount of the mask, healing, prayer, lots of study, those types of things. But without going over and being proactive in taking off the mask, I would have still been the 12-year-old boy in a 30-plus old man's body. And who can I go over and help? Who can I go over and teach? Who can I go over and serve? Who can I go over and love as a 12-year-old boy? No woman wants to marry a 12-year-old boy. And no man wants to go marry a 12-year-old girl long term. We want that person to mature mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. We want to grow together. So the only way we can do that is learning to be authentic. We do it all the time online, and we're authentic and we pour out, but when we come to the bedroom, we don't. And we stay that 12-year-old boy or girl or wherever we stopped maturing. And yet we age and we age. So physically on the outside, we look like mature and spot on, and everything's working perfect. But on the inside, we're that stunted child, mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, because we didn't deal with the pains, the failures, the hurts, the beliefs, the past relationships, the cynicism, the lies, or whatever you want to go over and put into that list. So that was me in a nutshell. Now, if you're watching and you're wondering, why is he sharing this story? What's the point? What's the goal? The goal is this. Our goal for you, just as the goal for me, and just as for every person that visits the bedroom, and we'll be talking about this in the bedroom this week, we'll be talking about this in the living room next week, we'll be talking about this in the boardroom the following week. The overall goal of authenticity and being authentic is maturing into who you're called to be. Your calling, your life, your dreams, your destiny doesn't start in the boardroom. It starts in the bedroom. Just as you as a little kid were dreaming and looking at the stars and looking at your ceiling, and there was goals and there was dreams and there was aspirations you had. But the hurts, the lies, and the limitations started in those places, in the bedroom and the living room, and really never in the boardroom. And then we take those pains and those masks and the lies and the fear and the pleasing and whatever it is, and we put that on and we shape a mask to go over and to thrive. And what we're really doing is going over and surviving. So our superhero challenge to you, no matter if you're watching this on the live or the replay, because we know it's already late already, it's 6:29 in the evening, everybody's going sleepy. Well, at least on the East Coast, because it's cold and it's winter. Hopefully you guys, when you guys get restored power and you're watching this, maybe at a later time, your superhero challenge that we want you to go over and do is to review this list. And again, it's not an exhaustive list. This is a list to go over and start getting your mind to go over and to think. Review the list of the masks that you might be wearing. Maybe you're wearing one. Maybe you're wearing two. For me, I think I wore 8 out of 10 of those masks. And these are things that I started thinking about all throughout the day as I was planning this live, is that I want you to review it. Where do you see yourself in that place? Maybe it's another mask. And then as you review that list, start reflecting and seeing on which ones you put on and why. And then if you feel comfortable, this is like the superhero challenge, is to share where you sit at. If you want to have a safe place to go over and discuss this, we have a new group called Marriage Superheroes. We'd love for you to go over and connect there. If you are struggling with this and you realize that you are wearing some of these masks, or maybe all of them, go over and connect with us. We give 20 minutes free to every single military veteran, first responder for their first time going over and connecting with us. We're here doing this message on a regular basis. To have you transform is not just for us to hear ourselves speak. It's for you to hear your voice in the change your story, to rewrite the script so we can change his story and her story so you can have the best story of your life. So we want to thank you for going over and joining us. We appreciate you guys going over and following us. Again, if you want a safe place to go over and to discuss this stuff, if our personal pages is not a place for you, you can come to Marriage Superheroes and come over and join. Eventually it will turn to a private group. Right now it's public right now for you to go over and find. So we want to thank you. Thank you for going over and joining, and we want to go over and give thanks to our sponsors that regularly go over and support us.
Millions of men and women have served this great country. However, over 40,000 veterans sleep on the streets every night. 20 veterans commit suicide on any given day. Veterans have been left without medical services while they suffer from mental illness and addiction. They are dying alone. Join Armory Dog and the Veterans Project to help serve this forgotten community of heroes. Veterans is a place for our men and women who have served our great country, giving them a place to stay and rehabilitate in a safe and positive environment. Please help support the Veterans Project so that these men and women can get back on their feet and find their purpose for living. The Veterans Project will house 10,000 veterans, getting them off the streets, back into society, and utilizing their skills as they once used to serve our great country. Veterans Not Forgotten.